was the example of Yoav. He worked with David HaMelech. He was the great general for David, but he made some mistakes and made some big mistakes. And therefore he was Chayiv Mitah as a result of those mistakes that he made. Just a little back again. We are on Yud Beis Amud Aleph, 12a, about towards the top of the page, Nigma Dino. And we mentioned in our Mishnah, that's the connection. The Mishnah had said that Nigma Dino, if there was a verdict, and the verdict said the guy has to go to exile, once he has to go to exile, even if he's a Sar Seva, even if he's a general like Yoav, he doesn't leave the Arim Miklat until the Kohen Gadol dies. He has to stay there even though the Jewish community needs him. That's what the Mishnah said. Now, so the Gemara says that Yoav, we find that Yoav he killed some people. He killed Avner Ben Ner. Avner Ben Ner was the great general under King Shaul HaMelech. And after later on, Avner came to David, said, I'm going to be with you. And there was a tremendous, David accepted him, even though he was general that went against David with Shaul. And then Yoav went ahead and killed him. Yoav was still again because he was his former enemy, and he went ahead and he killed him. And David was, and then the Navi talks about how David was involved in the Hespedim or in the funeral, the eulogy, or the funeral, had the respect that David gave after the death of Avner when Avner was killed, and David was very disturbed by the action of Yoav. And he also killed Amasa. So there was two generals that he had killed, and before David passed away, he told Shlomo to kill Yoav. Yoav has to be killed for what he did. He's deserving of death, and I presume part of David's intention was to, Yoav should have kapara. The death of Yoav will be his being punished will be a kapara for him, and maybe it's also to show other people. Excuse me 1 second. Hello. What's doing? So try to see get someone else to say the Berachas HaTorah for you, or if you don't have someone else say Berachas HaTorah for you, and when you say Abba Rabba, have in mind, you have in mind Abba Rabba, and then after Shemon Esrei, say some Sukkah Mibrach Hashem Yishmerecha. Okay? Okay, you're welcome. Bye-bye. So he got also maybe also David's point was that someone does a sin, he needs to be punished. People need to see that maybe it's also important for the people to see that people wouldn't repeat similar things that Yoav did. Maybe that's also a point of David. But we have to see what exactly was the reason for David. But obviously, this is the emet, what needs to be done. Yoav is deserving of this. And he tells Shlomo that, you have to figure out how to find something on Yoav. He needs to be killed for what he did. But there's no witnesses, no warning on what he did. So we can't really kill him. The court can't kill him. So you got to figure out, so what did he find? Shlomo found a proper excuse to kill him. What was the proper excuse? Because Adoniyahu, if you recall in the beginning of Sefer Malachim, Adoniyahu said that I'm going to be the king. David HaMelech was very old, and Adoniyahu says, I'm the king, and he already has people going for him, and Yoav joined him. Even though it was David had said, had told Bathsheba that Shlomo was going to be the next king. There's a famous Haftorah by Melech David Shakim Bayomim, and a famous Haftorah where they come to David, and Bathsheba comes, and Nathan Hanavi comes, and they say, Eini kol yisrael alecha, the eyes of Israel on you, David. Either you take care of it now, if you don't take care of it, it's going to be forever, because David's going to pass away, he's an old man, and then David says, I'm going to take care of it, and he makes sure that it makes sure Shlomo will be the next king. But because Yoav went with Adoniyahu, so that was like a Mori b'malchut, that was like going against the right. So therefore, that's how he was able to send, that was the proper excuse that he was able to point at for this. And what happened was, the pasuk says, Yoav ran to the Mizbeach. Yoav had an idea that he thought he would be able to be safe. What happened? So he ran to the Mizbeach. Look what the Gemara says. Am Rabbi Yehuda Marav. Stay to Yoav Botasha. There were two. He knew that David had sent Adoniyahu, Ben Yehoyada. Shlomo had sent Ben Yehoyada to kill him. And Shlomo said, really, it's because of the murders of the holy tzaddikim. And he ran to the Mizbeach. The Ksiv, Vayanos Yoav Elo Hashem. Yoav went, he ran to the tent of Hashem. Vayachazik b'kanot hamizbeach. He held on to the corners of the Mizbeach, and hoping that the Mizbeach would serve as like a miklat, like an Arim miklat. We had, so Rashi says, if you look at the Rashi, To'a Yoav, B'drasha, you have the Rashi, 4 notches at the top. B'drasha, Me'im is b'chitikachenu. The pasuk says if somebody kills someone intentionally, morning Mr. B'tesh, someone kills someone intentionally, and he was warned, and there's the witnesses. The pasuk says that even if the person is a kohen and he's doing avodah, he's doing service to the Beit HaMikdash, and he's up there by the Mizbeach, but if he killed intentionally, there's warning, there's witnesses. You got to take him away from the Mizbeach. You got to take him down. He has to be killed if this Kohen killed somebody. It's not that you're a Kohen. Now the fact that you're doing service in the Beis HaMikdash, now you get a free pass. It doesn't work that way. If a Kohen committed murder, he's going to be taken away. But the pasuk says from the Mizbeach. So the Gemara has a drasha, me'im mizbechi v'lo me'al mizbechi. If the Kohen is on top of the Mizbeach, if he's standing on top of the Mizbeach, it's like he'll be safe. They can't take him from there to die. So now we're going to explain this a little bit. The Torah only says you could take a Kohen who committed murder. We're on 12a, most probably our school, I presume it's 12a1. Towards the top, we're about a few lines into the page. We're just doing a little bit background regarding Yoav in the story, what just happened. Yoav, we said, was the general of David, but he made some big mistakes. He made 2 big mistakes, maybe 3, but the big 2 was that he killed Avner ben Ner and he killed Amasa. He killed 2 great generals that he should not have killed. 2 Jewish, religious, fine, tzaddikim, great people he killed, and he needed to be punished for those murders. And David HaMelech set it up that he's going to he told Shlomo to make sure you take care of business. You make sure that Yoav will get what's deserving to get. Good morning, Mike.
Morning, Rabbi.
Morning. So just to bring everybody, Chazar is very important. Review is very important. So Mike, we're learning about a fascinating story. A fascinating story with Yoav, who was the great general of David HaMelech, who was the servant of death. And also it shows you also, you could be a great person, could be a great person, but you know what? They can never let their guard down. They can't make some mistakes. And Yoav made some big mistakes. I mean, he intentionally, he killed the Avner ben Ner. Avner, as we said before, he used to be the enemy. He used to be on Shaul, the general for Shaul HaMelech, and he went ahead and David, and he killed him for no reason, because he already came to David's side. He already came, and David made peace with him, and David accepted him, and then he went ahead and he killed Yoav, killed him like cold-blooded murder, and it was a terrible tragedy. And David says Yoav needs to be killed for that, and he tells Shlomo, make sure you take care of him. And Yoav ran to the Mizbeach. He ran to the Mizbeach when Benayahu was sent to kill him. He ran to the Mizbeach, and he thought that the Mizbeach was going to be a safe haven. We had Gemara earlier. There's an opinion in the Gemara that if a rabbi is teaching Torah, he's safe. The Kol Adam can't kill him, right? There was one opinion in the Gemara. But sometimes there could be something else besides the actual cities of refuge that could be protection. And what could be safe? What could be protection? By being by the Mizbeach. Now, we're going to learn more about this. Being by the altar, the Mizbeach, being on top of the Mizbeach, that in itself will be protection. You hit Mr. Batesh, is that fascinating? He stands on top of the Mizbeach. But what did Yoav do? He made a mistake. He didn't stand on top of the Mizbeach, he held onto the corners of the Mizbeach. And the corners of the Mizbeach is not the top, that's not good enough. Technicality. And therefore he was mistaken and he wasn't safe. Now, just to give some background, the Gemara says, if someone kills somebody, we take him out of the Beit HaMikdash. If a Kohen was doing service in the Beit HaMikdash, but he was found to be a murderer, and we remove him from the Beit HaMikdash, that's only if he is on the side of the Mizbeach. But if he somehow standing on top of the Mizbeach, now the Kohen doesn't generally stand on top of the Mizbeach, but if he would go stand on top of the Mizbeach, you're not allowed to go ahead and take him away if he's on top of Mizbeach. You can't take him away. Right, very good. So we're going to see about right. So as Mr. Batesh says, Yoav knew that even if though they cannot take him down from the Mizbeach and he's safe, they can't touch him, but he's still not going to live, because the language says, even if Shlomo cannot remove him, but they could watch that he won't escape, right? We can't touch you. Just like the guy is in Ori Miklat. If the guy is in Ori Miklat, he's safe. He's in the city of refuge. You can't go in. You can't go in. The Gol Adam can't go in. But how long could the guy live on top of a Mizbeach, Mr. Batesh? You can't touch him. He's going to die out of hunger. So what was Yoav thinking? What was Yoav thinking, that he's going to go to run to the Mizbeach and it's going to be a place of refuge, but he's going to die. Not going to. So Yoav was thinking that if the king would kill him, there are certain laws. There's a difference in law if a king kills an individual because the king feels he's deserving of death. Let's say a person was rebellious to the king and the king has the right to kill him. So there, the law is, the person is killed, his property is also seized by the government, by the king. The king has a right to the guy's property. But if he is killed by, if he's not killed by the king, if he'll die out of hunger, the king never killed him, then his children will inherit his property. And Yoav felt he'll get a gain. That's how some explain what was Yoav's thinking. He thought that he'll have a gain, that his children will inherit him. If he doesn't, if the king is out to kill him, Shlomo put a death sentence on him because he said that he was rebellious by going with Adoniyahu, Shlomo's brother, following him to be the new king when Shlomo was supposed to be the king. So you were rebellious. But being rebellious, if the king gets him, if Benayahu, who represents the executioner of the king, would kill him, then Shlomo would take his property. The kingdom would get the property, and therefore his children will get nothing. So Yoav was interested in helping his children. That is how Tosfos explains. Others have a different explanation. What did you say? Yeah, you saw it, right? That's how some explain. Now, our Gemara would seem to indicate that even a person who kills intentionally, he kills intentionally, the Mizbeach, the altar, would have power to save him, right? We always know about Ori Miklat, cities of refuge that could save a person. We're always talking about a shogeg. If somebody killed someone unintentionally, if someone kills something intentionally, we never heard that Ori Miklat, the cities of refuge, could save him. We always said that if you killed intentionally without warning or without witnesses, Ori Miklat is not enough. If you kill intentionally with witnesses and warning, they'll take him out of Ori Miklat and kill him. So the shogeg was the case, the unintentional case was the case that he goes, Ori Miklat would work. So when our Gemara was a case that Yoav killed intentionally, right? He killed Amasa, he killed Avner ben Ner intentionally, and yet he's running to the Mizbeach to be a source of refuge, even though it was a intentional murder. So how would it, now it's true, maybe there was no warning, it's true, maybe there's no witnesses, but how would that work? So, and also, if you look at the pasuk says, "V'chi yazid," if a person yazid ishareu, a person goes ahead and intentionally goes ahead and he kills his friend. So the pasuk says, "Me'im mizbechi tikachen alamo." You take him from the mizbeach. You take him down and you take him and you kill him. The court kills him. But that pasuk is saying the case when he kills intentionally, you take him if he's me'im mizbechi. He's near the mizbeach, but not if he's on the mizbeach. So even the context of the pasuk, which teaches us that there's a safe haven on top of the mizbeach, what's the case of the Torah talking about in one area? When he killed intentionally. So we see that the Mizbeach would be a safe haven even from an intentional murder. But that's what it would seem from our Gemara, which would be very hard to understand because it's a little bit against a lot of what we've been learning, that intentional murders, there's nothing should serve as a refuge for an intentional murder. So what's the logic? The fact that you're on top of the Mizbeach, you're standing on top of the Mizbeach, so then you're safe. Why should that make you safe? If it was an unintentional murder and you're standing on top of the Mizbeach, okay, I can understand that. The same way that the Ori Miklat, the cities of refuge, serve as refuge. So maybe you could say that the Mizbeach being on top of the altar would also serve as refuge. But for an intentional murder, so but from our Gemara, that's what it seems like. But again, even in our Gemara that seems there would be a refuge, the question would be, would the guy it's only be a temporary refuge because eventually he's going to die there because he's not going to be able to be, because once he leaves, the people will kill him. So even if you say it is a refuge, so maybe it's not really considered a real refuge because it's only temporary. But others might say you might even actually, the question would be, would you actually escort the guy to a city of refuge. So we have to, but once he's safe, would we escort him to Ori Miklat or not? But the Rambam says the following: the roof of a mizbeach, the top of an altar, will protect the murderer who killed unintentionally. But if a person killed intentionally, the altar will not protect it. You could go, the mizbeach won't do anything for a guy. It's exactly in sync with what we've been saying until now. A mizbeach, something that's an altar, would not save a guy from an intentional murder. So the question is, what was Yoav thinking? Yoav, we had the Gemara, Yoav was the general of David. He ran to the altar. He ran to the mizbeach, thinking that it will protect him. And we'll see what his mistake was. One of his mistakes was he had killed people intentionally. He killed Avner Ben Ner, cold-blooded murder, and he ran to the mizbeach. He ran to the altar as a refuge and protection. And he thought holding on to the horns of the corners of the mizbeach would also protect him. And that was a mistake. The corners did, but if he would have been on top of the mizbeach, it would have saved him. But has the Rambam explained? But if it was intentional murder, it shouldn't be protected by the what? By the mizbeach, by the altar. So someone who explained, the Rajva says that Yoav was not judged by it. That which the Rambam says, that the mizbeach, the altar, will not serve as a refuge, would mean if there was witnesses and there was warning. But since this was not that case, this was a different type of case. This was a death based on the government. The government, there's something when you don't treat the kingdom with proper respect. The kingdom felt that you were rebellious. That was the type of the allowance to kill him for here was only going to be if the government, meaning whatever he did, you wouldn't be able to kill him for what he did, because it wasn't so. They had no witnesses and no warning, or they weren't be able to kill him for whatever he did to Avner. It wasn't enough that you were able to bring him to court and kill him for. The only thing that you had on him was that you could kill him for was that he was not respectful to the kingdom, because he followed Adoniyahu, followed the wrong man, which was the man who was not supposed to be the next person in power when Shlomo was supposed to be in power. What? No, thank you. So when you go ahead, that type of judgment against a person, even though it was done intentionally, the mizbeach, the altar, would have the power to protect him. So here, this is the chidush of the Rashba. So we're saying that if a person killed intentionally, or better said, if the reason why he was if he's trying to escape from being killed from the government wants to kill him for acting in a way which is not respectful for the government, that situation, the mizbeach, the altar, has the power to protect him. If a person killed with witnesses and with warning, the altar will not protect. And it seems here we couldn't even look at the case of Yoav, that but he killed without witnesses. That wasn't, we can't even hold him responsible for that. We can't, maybe in court we couldn't hold him in some way. But what we could hold him, what we had on him was clearly that he went ahead and he was rebellious against the kingship. And being obligated death for that, the mizbeach has the power to save. And therefore he ran to the, that's the Rashba. Therefore, he ran to the Mizbeach and he says, listen, you have a sentence on me. You've been the only reason why you've been coming to kill me, Yoav, is because of because of that power that I was rebellious. Maybe it could be, you could say, when I killed Avner, I had the right to do it. Avner he used to be part of the enemy. He was on Shaul's side, and whatever maybe Yoav could have had, you couldn't really point the finger at him so much for those murders, but you had him. It's like, I don't know if I want to say the O.J. Simpson trial. They got him on gun charges, right? Meaning sometimes you couldn't, he did the murder or something, but let's say you couldn't nail him on it. But you could nail him on what? On something else. I got something else to nail him on. That's what David HaMelech said to Shlomo. Shlomo, because you act with your wisdom. Figure it out how to get him. Get him on something. We got him. He has to get it. We got to get him. He's deserving of it. We don't have the goods. Get some goods on him. That's what David said. David said to Shlomo, you got to take care of this. And he told Shlomo.
So David couldn't do it. It means he couldn't catch him.
It's a good question. I wonder why. It could be. We have to look up in the commentaries. Why didn't David HaMelech himself do it? I wonder if Yoav supported David all those years, and he was his general all those years. I don't know if David himself would want to punish him directly. That he should be the man to do it. So David told him, "Fine, like be smart, figure it out, get him on something, right?" And that's what he did. How do you like that, Mr. Bethes? Because he got him on the rebellious, but that wasn't really why they were out to kill him. Meaning, really, the reason why they wanted to kill him was because he killed Avner, he killed Amasa, he killed people. As long as he has to get it. He has to get killed. He needs to be atoned. He needs to be punished. But we got to find something on him. We can't just do it without. But we have to go by the books, right? That's the Havdil, the O.J. Simpson. They couldn't get him on anything. So what did they got him? On gunshots. I shouldn't even say his O.J. Simpson's name, a person, but I'm just giving you an example of. So anytime you hear about O.J. Simpson, you should think about the Gemara. You should think about, the Navi. You should think about maybe that's all that should come to him, and not about the football, not about his. But also you should, when you think about O.J. Simpson, you should think about Shiloh Sani Guy. That's what you should think about. That Baruch Hashem, we see the difference between how people act properly and how people don't act properly. So that's the.
I read more further down. It says that war, he went on the taking the Dutch, straight up, protect his possessions.
Right. So that's what we were saying. We were saying, what was Yoav? That's how some explain. What was Yoav thinking?
If he doesn't die by then,
He'll die of starvation. Right. He was wanted to gain that. He was thinking about his kids. See that? People are thinking about their property. They wanted their property should be, the kids should have it. So he was thinking that if he'll go to the Mizbeach, they can't touch him. And how he'll die of starvation. But at least his kids will inherit him. But if he doesn't die out of starvation, meaning if he doesn't go to the Mizbeach, he doesn't go to the altar, and he gets killed from Benayo, then the king takes the possession. And his kids don't get anything. If the government has if a person violated government rule and was rebellious against the government, and the government kills him, the government not only kills him, they have a right to seize his property also. And his kids won't get nothing. And Yoav wanted his kids to get, therefore he thought at least he'll gain that. That's how some explain. Now, back to the Gemara on 12a. Rabbi Yehuda Marav. So, but he made a mistake. What was his mistake? It says, he made two mistakes. What was the mistake? Yes. Yoav made two mistakes. He thought he was going to be safe, but he wasn't safe. Number one, it says, Vayonis Yoav Elo Hashem, He ran there to Ol Hashem v'yechazik b'kanos hamizbeach. He held on to the corners of the mizbeach. So what happened? What was the mistake? She'ena kolet el lagago. Only the roof of the mizbeach would actually serve as protection that could have saved him. V'hu tafas b'kanotav. He held on to the what? To the corners of the mizbeach. He did not stand on the mizbeach itself. That's mistake number one. Mistake number two is she'ena kolet el mizbach or mizbach olamim. The mizbeach of the Beit HaMikdash. That's the place that has the Shekhinah. That's the permanent dwelling place of Hashem. But a mizbeach, that any other mizbeach that was not part of the Beit HaMikdash, that will not serve as a place of protection. You know, it's like the mizbeach of the Beit HaMikdash. We have the concept, a mizbeach brings life to the world. The Torah says that you're not allowed to use a knife. The Torah says you're not allowed to cut. There's a halacha, you can't cut the stones of the mizbeach with a knife. Why not? Because the mizbeach brings life to people. You can't put a knife on the mizbeach, a knife to cut. A knife brings death to people. A sword brings death. So therefore, says that's what the pasuk says. You can't cut the stone. The stone, you can't use a knife to cut the stone to a certain size, because a mizbeach, an altar that brings life, cannot have something go on it that brings what? Death. The mizbeach brings life to the people. As a result of the korbanot, we live. We're forgiven. We're forgiven for sin. So maybe that's also a little bit of what the mizbeach in the Beit HaMikdash, which represents the ultimate of life. It brings life to a person, so a person is safe. By going there, in a certain sense, you're safe. You're safe from here. He would be safe even from the death of the execution of the king. He will be safe. That's the power of such a holy place of peace, that it would save him, or would serve as exile, as a place of refuge. Place of refuge, like the Gemara says, the pasuk is v'chay, he lives there. I mean, it's a place of living. So that's maybe the mizbeach is such a place of life that he's safe when he's there. That was mistake number one. Mistake number two, we said, was mistake number one, he held onto the corners. Mistake number two was it's only the Beit HaMikdash. And where was this? So Rashi has a girsah. The Gemara says, "Who tafash mizbeach shel Shiloh?" He held on to the mizbeach of Shiloh. Now, Shiloh was a place in Eretz Yisrael that the Beit HaMikdash was there for many. The Mishkan was there for many years. But this time period, Rashi points out, Shiloh was already gone. They were already somewhere else. They were already in Givon. And therefore, Rashi, and in Givon, when you had the Mizbeach in Shiloh, you couldn't make any private altars. There's something called a Bama. There's something called a private altar. So in Shiloh, you couldn't make a private altar. Everybody couldn't create their own altar. In Givon, they were allowed to make their own altar. Once the Beit HaMikdash was built, we never can make a private altar anymore. But until the Beit HaMikdash was built, you can make. You want to build your own altar. You want to bring a korban to Hashem. You can bring a korban to Hashem. In Shiloh, you couldn't do it. Certain places in Jewish history, you couldn't do it. So, but this is post Shiloh. Shiloh already was gone. We're in Givon. In Givon. So where was this? This was, the Rashi says, this was a mizbeach, an altar that David had made in front of the Aron HaKodesh, the Aron, which contained the Torah, the Luchot, in Ir David. In the city of David, he had made an altar, and that's where Yoav ran to. That was that's where he went to. Abaye says, there's another mistake. What was the other mistake? The only time it will serve as refuge if he's a Kohen while he's doing avodah. If he started doing avodah, and then he's there, he goes on the Mizbeach, and he started doing Avodah, if you're a Kohen, and you're doing Avodah, and then you go on to the Mizbeach, right? Then you go on top of the Mizbeach, then that serves as a refuge. You're safe. But who was Zahaya? Yoav was a Zah. Yoav was a non-Kohen. He was not a Kohen. Because he was not a Kohen, so this whole thing wouldn't help him. This whole thing, Abaye, this is Abaye's opinion, by the way. I don't think that's the halacha. Like Abaye, I don't think the Rambam. Abaye says that the only time a person is safe when he goes on top of the Mizbeach on the altar, and then the Goel Hadam can't touch him, it's only, Abaye says, it's only if you're a Kohen. And you started doing Avodah. You're in the middle of doing Avodah, you brought the Ketoret, or let's say you brought the Karban, then you go on top of the Mizbeach, then the Mizbeach will serve as a place you're safe. Say it again? Right. Sounds like only, you see, the question is, what does it mean? Does it mean once he started the process, would he be protected once he started the process? Or is it only while the Kohen is doing the Avodah? But if he's on top of him, standing on top of his Mizbeach, so let's see what the Gemara says. If you're a Kohen, and Yoav was not a Kohen. Since he was not a Kohen, it will not protect him, correct? And then there's another part, even if you're a Kohen, you have to be involved while you're doing the Avodah. So what does that mean exactly? What does that mean exactly? So it sounds like if a Kohen is in the middle of performing, if he's in the middle of doing Avodah, so it sounds like that if the Kohen stopped doing the Avodah, he's not protected. That's how it sounds like. It's a very minimal protection. It's a very small amount of time according to this. According to Abaye, it's only when you're in the middle of doing Elakoin va'avodah biyado. So we have to see more. We will look to see if the halacha is like that or not, because here we have the Rambam. There is a letter of the Rambam on this point. We have to see more what exactly it says in the halacha. Maybe tomorrow we'll see more about what the halacha exactly is. Right, he made a mistake. That was a mistake. See, people make mistakes. He didn't know this. Now, he didn't know that. He thought he would be safe. Right. Because the pasuk, right, that was his mistake.
I'll have to make it. Sorry.
Very good. Hatsor Tamim Pa'alo. Good morning. How are you? Good morning.